God bless. And in this video, we are going to go over one aspect of how Jesus was crucified. And in this video, we're going to go over that it was not the Romans that actually crucified Jesus. It was Jewish soldiers. And we're going to get to that from evidence that is in the Bible and has been there, but somehow has been neglected. And we're going to use one word to find the places where we need to go to, and that word is vinegar. So let's look at the first place that we see vinegar in Matthew, and in that verse, verse 27:34, they gave him to drink vinegar mixed with gall, and having tasted he would not drink, and having crucified him, they divided his garments. Okay, so whoever gave him the vinegar mixed with the gall has also crucified him and divided his garments, casting a lot that it might be fulfilled that it was spoken by the prophet that they divided my garments to themselves, and over my vesture they cast a lot. So in Matthew, whoever gave Jesus vinegar mixed with gall and having crucified him, they gave him, this body of people, they gave him to drink vinegar mixed with gall, and having tasted he would not drink, and having crucified him. This is the same they. Okay, now we're going to go to the next place, and here's where it really comes together. And it's just amazing how this is there for so many, like almost 2,000 years. So now we're at 2748, but we're going to go a little bit before this, and you'll see why. So we're going to go at 2746. And about the ninth hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my God, why didst thou forsake me? Next verse. And certain of those standing there, having heard, said, Elijah he doth call. And immediately one of them, having run, and having taken a sponge, having filled with vinegar, and having put on a reed, was given to him to drink. But the rest said, Let alone, let us see if Elijah doth come about to save him. Okay, here's the big question. Who would know what Elijah represents? Who would be worried about Elijah doth coming? It wouldn't be those that are of God. They wouldn't be worried. Who would know who Elijah was? Would the Romans know who Elijah was? And why would Elijah be coming? So now we're going to jump over to Malachi. The last verse in Malachi 4:6, 4:5. Lo, this is Yahweh God, I am sending to you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the day of Yahweh or Jehovah, the great and the fearful, and hath turned back the heart of the fathers to the sons, and the heart of the sons to the fathers, before I come and have utterly smitten the land. This is the Elijah the guy before was worried about. This one line in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the last few words of the Old Testament, is what the guy running with the reed, vinegar, and having put it on his reed, was to drink. This guy can't be Roman. It's impossible. A Roman would not know who Elijah was and the significance of Elijah. And we know, some people might say, well, the Romans would learn the religion, they'd learn this because they take care of people. That's garbage. That's straight up garbage. And you know how we know that? When Jesus was in front of Pilate. Pilate didn't even know who Jesus was. When Jesus says, when Pilate asked him if thou art the king of the Jews, and Jesus said, thou sayest. And Jesus asked him in John, do you say it? Is it of yourself? And Pilate answers, your countrymen say it. So that means that Pilate had no idea. They told him in that moment. So there's no way that they're going to know who Elijah was. It's impossible. So now we've established that the person that was nervous, that gave this hyssop of vinegar, is Jewish. In the last verse that we looked at, we know that those are the same people that crucified Jesus. Now, maybe we're making a mistake, right? You might think, oh no, it can't be, can't be. We were all brought up with the Romans did it, the Romans did it. Of course, everybody wants to blame the Romans because it's convenient. We already know from the past that the Romans, were, the Jews conspired to have Jesus crucified. But the actual crucifixion, they would always pin it on the Romans. But how can we get away from this verse now? These verses. And there's more. But the rest said, let us see if Elijah doth come. So that the rest of them, rest of who? We know that the guy that gave Jesus the vinegar was Jewish. We also know he's part of the they from the previous verse that crucified him. So the rest of those that crucified him wanted to see if Elijah would come. A Roman would not know this, would not know. Okay, let's go to the next one. And now we'll do another find. Oops, sorry. This is old. Oh, geez, come on. All right, so now we're going to go to Mark 15:36, and one having filled with a sponge with vinegar, having put it also reed, was giving to him to drink, saying, let us see if Elijah doth come to take him down. And Jesus, having uttered a loud cry, yielded the spirit. So this is the same. If we go further back to 33, 34, and at that ninth hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is being interpreted, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? The original Greek word for my God is very similar to Elijah, Eloi. And certain of those standing by, having heard, said, lo, he doth call. Again, who would be worried about what's going on here? The Romans don't know. So the Jews did something bad to Jesus. Of course they'd be worried if Elijah would come, because they just crucified him. Let's go to another place. And this ties into something else that we're going to get to by the end. Now we're going to get to Luke 23:36, which is, and here we go. And mocking him also were the soldiers. So now we're going to establish the soldiers coming near and offering vinegar to him and saying, if thou be king of the Jews, save thyself. Now there's 2 or 3 things going on here. First, we know they're Jews. We know they crucified them. And now we know that they are soldiers. The people offering the vinegar are the soldiers to him and saying, if thou be king of Jews, save thyself. This part here, if thou be the king of Jews, save thyself, is a will worshipper's understanding of God. The Roman soldier would not understand or say that. That is not the position of a Roman soldier who came in to squash some people as far as he's concerned. It is the position of a Jewish or Edomite Jew, or whatever you want to call it, soldier that is mocking Jesus. These are professional soldiers now. The Romans were professional soldiers. They came, they do what they got to do, they get out. So, it's not like they're going to be mocking him. There's no reason for them to mock him. If anything, the Roman soldier would be waiting for Jesus to say something like, help me, save me, and things like that. That's what a soldier in this position would do. Not having a theological understanding, if thou be king of the Jews, save thyself. See, save thyself, as I made in another video, it's evil speaking. It's evil speaking. The guy on the cross said that, and other people said that. And again, it is the will-worshipping theology. And there was also superscription written over him, letters Roman and Hebrew, and this is the king of the Jews. And this one, the evildoers who was hanged, speaking evil of him, saying, if thou be Christ, save thyself and us. So you see the connection? Evildoers. The evildoers would say, save thyself and us. And then the other one rebuked him. Okay, I don't want to get too out of topic now. So let's go someplace else now. Now we're going to go to John 10:29, 19:29. We'll go a little further. And after this, Jesus, knowing all things, and now having been finished, that the writing may be fulfilled, saith, I thirst. A vessel therefore was placed full of vinegar, and they having been filled it with sponge of vinegar, and having put around a hyssop stalk, did put to his mouth. When Jesus therefore received the vinegar, he said, it hath been finished. Remember, these are Jewish soldiers that crucified him. It hath been finished, bowed his head, and gave up the spirit. The Jews therefore, the bodies might not remain on the cross on the Sabbath. Okay, so now let's go someplace else that says vinegar, and it's going to get even more ominous, because a lot of people think when Jesus said, Father, forgive them, that that there's going to be some forgiveness here. We're not going to. Let's do forgive them. Okay, and then you'll see how this ties together. For they know not. Oh no, I spelled it wrong. It's been a while since I made a video. I'm hoping to make more. I was inspired. I met someone and we spoke about the Bible, and I'm like, okay, time for us to make more videos. And today's the day. And Jesus said, this is Luke 23:34, and Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they have not known what they do. And parting his garments, they cast a lot. Okay. Forgive who? These Jewish soldiers knew exactly what they were doing. They weren't ignorant. There's a qualifier in here. Father, forgive them. Who's them? It could be any them at this point. For they not know what they do. So then who did know what they do? The Jews that crucified him knew what they were doing. The Jewish soldiers knew. They were mocking him. They say, if thou be, these are soldiers of Herod. And, we could do a quick search and we'll see Herod had officers. So this way you'll see Herod had officers there as well. And when it does say Jesus was crucified, it doesn't say centurions. Alright, so now we're going to go to the officers. I've got to get rid of the period. My fingers are too big. I will go. We'll do Herod. It's there. And let's see where they are. It's towards the end, right? Herod, for Herod having laid hold on John. This time Herod. It's there. Even if I can't find it now, it's like I don't want to be on too much pressure here trying to figure this out. But it's there. I've definitely seen it. No Mandela effect for those Mandela people. And these are the same officers or soldiers that also took Jesus as well. They're also the ones that were bowing down before Jesus and, changed his clothing as well. Okay, here we go. 23:11. So there's no mistake. The Bible's very clear. 23:11. And Herod with his soldiers having set him to naught and having mocked. So now here's the mocking again. The ones that gave him the vinegar were also mocking him, having put around his gorgeous apparel, and did send him back to Pilate. The Bible's just filled with places where this is just right there. How do people not see this? I have no idea. Now, I actually do have an idea, but that's a lot of people might not like that. But anyway, I'm not going to say that. So now let's go to Psalms. This is a very important place. This is a place where Jesus was on the cross, and now we're going to talk about those that says, Father, forgive them. And let's see now, 69:21, we'll start there. And they gave for my food gall, and for my thirst caused me to drink vinegar. So who is they? Their table, same they, their table before them is a snare, and for a recompense, for a trap. Darkened are their eyes from seeing, and their loins continually shake thou. Pour upon them thine indignation, and the fierceness of thine anger doth seize them. Their tower is desolated, in their tents there is no dweller. It is another way of saying that there is no truth in them, where John 8 talks about. For they have pursued him, thou hast smitten, and recount of the pain of thy pierced ones. Give punishment for their iniquity, and they enter not into thy righteousness, and drives it home. They are blotted out of the book of life, and with the righteous are not written. These are those that Jesus is talking about that crucified him. There is no forgiveness, because when Jesus said from the cross, Father, forgive them, he had a qualifier in there. These people knew exactly what they were doing. So the people that crucified Jesus were mocking him. They were Jewish, they were soldiers, and they were the ones that were worried when Jesus said, when they thought Jesus said, Elijah, when Jesus said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And here's another thing too, and this is even more interesting, that the more you read into this, it gets even more. Jesus spoke with Elijah, Moses, on the Mount of the Transfiguration, and we're going to go right there. And this is like really okay. YLT, when they were on the mount, it's probably easier to look for Elijah, Jesus, and then we're talking about his outgoing. They were talking about what was about to happen to Jesus. That was recorded in one of the Gospels, and we're going to find it here. Let's go Elijah. And lo, appeared to them did Moses, Elijah. Okay, I'm not sure if it's in 17:3. Moses, Elijah, taking together him, and Peter answering, said, Sir, okay, it's not here. I think it's in John. Let's see if it's in John. Let's go to John. And the question. No, it's not in John. But it's definitely there where they were talking about the outgoing. And if they're talking about the outgoing, then Jesus knows that by saying this, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, at the same time, it's also, they're going to, the ones that crucified him are actually caught in a snare. This is a trap. We read that this is a snare. This is really incredible. I mean, this is so incredible, and you can't deny it because the evidence is there. This is not even circumstantial at this point. This is direct evidence. Okay, maybe it's 9:30. Men speaking with him, it says Moses, Elijah, who having appeared in glory, spake. Okay, here we go. Okay, Luke 9:30. And lo, two men were speaking together with him. This is Jesus, who were Moses and Elijah, who having appeared in glory, spake of his outgoing that he was about to fulfill in Jerusalem. They spoke together about the outgoing. This was a snare. The Jews that crucified Jesus entrapped themselves because they were worried about Elijah. They outed themselves. This video is very simple and just uses one aspect. I'm not using circumstantial evidence here. This is direct evidence of those mocking Jesus. And if you trail backwards from the cross, those that were mocking him, saying, save thyself, you'll see that they are all either, by saying save thyself, it's a theological answer. They shouldn't be saying that unless they are thinking of some theology. A Roman soldier wouldn't know that. Inconceivable for a Roman soldier to know that. It's inconceivable for a Roman soldier to know who Elijah was. No one is going to pick one verse of the last few words of the Old Testament and teach it to a Roman soldier. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It doesn't happen. And there's more, but I'll just leave it at that. You know, if anybody wants to do more research on themselves, you'll find more and more and more. You have the blueprint now. You have the blueprint. You can look it up yourself, and you're going to probably tell me more that forgot to include in this video, or maybe didn't even look upon, because that's the beauty of God's word. God bless, and read the Bible again. I read the YLT Bible, Young's Little Translation, and speak truth. Jesus was crucified because of lies, and God the Father is the Father of lights. We are to speak truth and be in truth. God bless.